Hi, second graders. Today we are going to work on what to do when you are reading nonfiction texts and how to find information that you may not have already known, and also how to look at what you already know when you are starting to read a nonfiction text. So we are going to start, before we read, we are going to start with a KWL chart. And if you don't remember, a KWL chart is a chart that is divided into thirds. The K stands for things I know. The W stands for things that you want to know or you want to learn. And the L stands for what you learn after reading. So before reading, we are going to choose our topic and then brainstorm these first two columns. So today our topic is going to be George Washington. So I'm going to go ahead and write George Washington at the top of my paper so that I remember that is my topic. You can do this either on a piece of paper or on the next slide. There is a KWL chart that you can type into if you prefer to type it. So I wrote my topic at the top of the paper, George Washington. And now I'm going to think of things that I know about George Washington. And I'm just going to write down as many things as I can think of. So I know George Washington was the first president of the United States. I know George Washington. What else do I know? I know he lived at Mount Vernon. So he was from Virginia. He was from really close to where Riverside is. And I'm going to try to think of at least 2 or 3 things that I know. So I have 2. But do I know anything else about him? I know that he was a general. So now that I've written 3 things that I already know, I'm going to move on to what I want to know about him. So I want to know, how did he become president? I want to know, and notice I'm using questions for this. I want to know what years he was alive. I know he was alive a long time ago, but I'm not sure exactly what years he was born and what years he died. So, when was he alive? And I want to try to think of at least one more question. So my last question is going to be, how did he become president? When was he alive? And maybe what other jobs he had besides being a president and a general. So these questions are going to help kind of guide my thinking, and those are things that I might look for, especially when I'm reading. My next step is I am going to read a book. So on the next slide, you're going to see me reading a book, and I'm going to see what I learned from reading the book. So take a couple of seconds or a couple minutes to think of, for George Washington, what do you already know and what do you want to learn through reading this book? After you've taken some time to do that, we're going to read a book about George Washington, and then we're going to come back to our KWL chart and share what we learned from reading this book. So I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll see you guys again in a second.